My name's Charlie, and I'm the Offbeat Picker. I'm a full-time reseller, and today I'm doing part one of a series about Etsy. Etsy is an online selling platform that was originally created to be basically an online craft fair. So it was a marketplace just for people to sell handmade goods. And eventually they opened the platform to people who sold crafting materials as well. And after that, they decided to open the market to a few more people, and they said, well, you can also sell vintage items here. So I decided to try to sell some vintage items on Etsy. And the reason why I decided to do that was I was experiencing the summer slowdown. If you've been reselling for a while, you've probably heard the term, you've probably experienced the actual dealing with it. During the summertime, people just don't shop online the way they do the rest of the year. When people are cold and stuck inside, they get bored, they scroll, they buy things. During the holidays, people buy gifts, they buy things all the time. But during the summer, they're vacationing, spending their money on that kind of stuff, and you just don't get as many sales. So I kind of wanted to find a way to fight that. And I thought, you know what I'll do? I'll start an Etsy store. So the first thing I did was look up YouTube videos, and I didn't find any. The only Etsy videos I found were about print on demand, and that's not what I'm trying to do. Sure, I'd love to do that, but I've got enough going on right now. Um, so I decided to make a video myself and experiment myself. That way, maybe I've got something new to teach people. So I decided to open my Etsy store on June 6th. And I listed 4 to 10 items a day until I hit 116 listings. And each listing costs 20 cents on Etsy, and it stays live for 4 months. So what I did was I listed these 116 items, which cost me a total of $23.20. And I figured if I don't sell anything in 4 months, at least I learned something. I can tell people, hey, don't start a vintage store on Etsy. It's a bad idea. Or I'd make some money. So either way, pretty good experiment to do. And I think it's gone pretty well. And so this first video, I'm going to show you the sales that I made. Bug. The sales that I made in the first approximately 2.5 months on Etsy. And then my next video is going to show you everything that I sold during Q4 on Etsy, because I planned on recording this video before then, and well, life doesn't always go as planned. So, and then part 3, I'm going to show my 1 year full picture of how it went on Etsy. And that'll be maybe the last you hear about it, or maybe I'll keep selling on Etsy. Who knows? On July 5th, I got the message that I sold my first item. And I was really excited about it because my first item that sold was something that I had set on eBay for 3 years. So I'm going to show you what I sold. So this is the first item that I sold. It actually sold after I decided to put my store on a 10% off sale because I was sick of listening to crickets. I wanted to hear cha-chings, you know? And this is the first thing that sold, and it is a Memphis Grizzlies mascot. It was a battery-operated plush that didn't even work. And I got it for $2 at Goodwill, and it sold for $22.50. The next item we have is a Dressy Bessie, and I paid too much for this. I think I paid like $5 for this doll, but she was from 1970, and I couldn't resist for some reason. She was very stained, very dirty. I probably shouldn't have bought her, but she sold on Etsy for $22.50. So sometimes vintage stuff will sell no matter how damaged it is. My next sale was this white fluffy cat. This cat had no tags on it to tell what it was. It just had a year. I believe it was 1988. I don't have that written down. But it was just a realistic looking cat, and it was vintage, and it was beautiful. And so I knew someone would want it. And it actually sold for $36. Next we have another plush that had no tags on it to tell what it was from, but it was one of those that's real stiff, like the carnival prizes, and it had like the little gold thread where it had hung up at the carnival or some kind of gaming place, arcade, something where someone won it. And I put zebra striped horse because It kind of was the colors of a zebra, but it looked like a horse. Very confusing. Either way, it sold for $25. My next item was just this little tiger cub. It was a super cute little plush, just a little like 5-inch tall. It was made in Korea. That was the only identifying markers on it, and it sold for $20. Next, we have a Dakin owl. I believe it's Dakin. Maybe it's Dakin. I don't know. But this owl was from 1980. It was realistic. It was really cool looking. I mean, just look at it. And it actually sold for $20. So at this point, since I had sold a few items, I had just been listing vintage plush at first. I decided to list some other things. And the next item that sold was a vintage game. And it was just a backgammon from the 90s. And it sold for $20. This next item was a Blue's Clues dog. It was from 1997 and it was very stained, but I got it real cheap. I got it at a thrift store where I buy trash bags of plush for $5 or $6, and I'll pick up anything if it's that cheap. And it sold for $15, so maybe it was a good idea. This next plush is also from 1997, and the reason why I knew that was because my brother was born in 1997 and he had this exact Winnie the Pooh. So I found this at a yard sale for $1 and I was like, I know it's vintage because I know it. I used to have it. So I listed it and it sold on Etsy for $20. This is a fun item. This is one of those parachute material kind of plush. They've got that weird puffalump feeling, but you can't say puffalump because it's not a puffalump. This is just a dinosaur. It was super cute. Things like this always sell. If I find any plush that's made of parachute material and it doesn't cost, $5 or less, I'm gonna buy it. Even if it's $5, I will buy it because parachute plush always sell. This had no brand on it, but it sold for $25. Next, we have a Madeline doll. This was from Eden, the company, and it was 1990. And it was funny. I kept having people message me about this doll, and I kept forgetting to respond. And they were asking about her scar, and apparently she did have a scar on her. I don't know the story about Madeline and her scar, but I know this doll sold for $16. Next item we have is a Dare Lion, which is kind of funny to me because I just sold a Dare Lion in a different size last week. But this was the real tiny one. He was like 5-6 inches tall, and he sold for $15. So that was all the things that I sold. And this is just a little spreadsheet kind of thing that I created to show you how much money I made. And in June, I sold nothing, but it cost me $24.20 to put up those first 116 listings. In July, I sold $166 worth of stuff. My cost of goods was $20.90. And then the fees and shipping was $58.67. So my profit was $86.43. In August, my total sales were $91, which actually, that's not even my total August sales. That was just till August 19th because I planned on recording this video August 19th, and it is not August 19th. We are now in May of the next year. So, like I said, life happens. And so I sold $91 worth of stuff in that first 19 days of August. And my cost of goods for that was $11. And the fees and shipping was $32.20. So my profit was $47.80. So in all, I made $134 profit in my first 2.5-ish months, which isn't that bad. It's not exceptionally exciting, like, ooh, $130. But when you need more money, $100 is something you're happy to get. So I think the first little bit went pretty well. And the next video, I'll tell you about all the things that sold during Q4. And if you've been a reseller for a while, Q4 is that time of year when the holidays come. Some people consider Q4 September through December. Some people consider it October through January. somewhere in that realm is Q4, and that's when your sales go up and it's wonderful. So in the next video, we'll talk about what sold in the Q4 on Etsy. I do want to make a couple more comments about why I think it took me a while to get my first sale. Um, when people buy things online and it's not a big store, you're just an individual selling, people get nervous and people overthink things and they get worried. And when you go to Etsy, it will tell you what year the person joined. So my store says I joined in 2022. So when people are going to buy something and it says you just joined, they're going to be scared that you're not a real person and they're going to get scammed. And people do get scammed sometimes, but I was just trying to start a store. So that probably affected how many people were willing to buy from me because I was a new member. Um, I also didn't create a store banner. When you design your Etsy store, you can put up a banner and everything to make yourself look more professional. I didn't go through that. I was just like, "I'll list some stuff, and if it sells, it sells, and if it doesn't sell, it doesn't sell." So I didn't do any of that stuff. So maybe if you were to create an Etsy store and you were to make the banner and do all the things to make it look like a real store, maybe you'd get sales faster. I don't know. I also want to mention that out of those first 12 orders, only 3 of those people left feedback. And sometimes when people buy stuff online, they don't buy from people that don't have a lot of feedback. So that could be another thing that was scaring people away. But the only way you can get feedback, the only way you can have something say you've been a member for a while is to start. You have to start somewhere. So hopefully, eventually, that will lead to more sales because you've been a member longer. And like now, it's currently 2023. So it says I was a member since 2022. So at least it kind of seems like I've been there a year. So hopefully that helps my sales more. But we'll discuss it in another video. So until then, guys, bye.